All right, welcome to this conversation on Boom Live. Remember, Boom Live is the place where you go to check all of your stories and to fight the battle against fake news, which is as important a battle to fight as the one we're fighting against the virus. In fact, on Boom Live today, I have Vivek Kaul join me. He's an author and a very senior journalist. Vivek, thanks for joining us. We've had a couple of conversations in the past about the economy, but I do want to begin by talking to you about the EMI moratorium or the EMI holiday that was announced. And I remember there was a lot of rejoicing that happened around that announcement. It's been 6 days into this month now. We're on day 7, which means all EMI should have gone in by now. Banks have sort of chosen an opt-in or opt-out option. Do you think this works? Is this what the market needed? Have the banks fully understood what the RBI was asking them to do?
Yeah, I think there is no miscommunication on that front, because the RBI actually did not make it mandatory for banks to offer a moratorium. It was up to them. And in fact, almost all of them have. Housing finance companies have also offered a moratorium. So I think as far as the communication bit is concerned, that was clear. What went wrong was basically the communication in the media, and in particularly the language media, where everyone was basically rejoicing, and the underlying tone was, at least in some cases that I saw, that you don't even need to pay the EMI. I mean, it was like that the EMIs have been waived off.
Yes,
which wasn't really the case. I mean, it was just a moratorium for a payment period of 3 months. And what most people did not understand was that, even during a moratorium, you need to pay interest on the loan simply because the bank has to pay interest on its deposits, right? I mean, only when a bank raises its deposits does it have the ability to give out loans. So, in fact, I mean, a day before that, I was on one of these calls, and someone asked me as to, do you think that the government should offer a moratorium? And I had categorically said no, because I thought it was a bad idea, because in the end people would have had to end up paying interest, and once you take that into account, it looks quite. The math actually looks quite horrible. So.
Considering the fact that when that moratorium was announced, industry, specifically SMEs, small businesses, were looking for some sort of relief. Because, FICCI has also said this, that they need some sort of comfort from government to know that things will be okay, so that they can continue to pay people or continue to keep people on payroll and keep them employed. Do you believe that this 3-month moratorium served that purpose?
Not really. So see, here's the thing. We need to understand that there is only so much that RBI can do. Okay. So if there has to be more relief, it has to come specifically from the government. I mean, it can't come from the RBI. I mean, the RBI is not going to put the position of banks in danger. I mean, unless there is some sort of compensation coming from the government. So.
From where we are right now, do you believe that the government should be announcing some sort of relief package from the finance ministry?
They've done a little, wherein they announced money going into Jan Dhan accounts of women, and there were a whole host of other things which were announced by the finance minister. I think there is a need to do more, and whether that happens, I really don't know. But I think they should be doing a lot more. So.
Vivek, I also want to talk about the CMIE unemployment numbers that have come out. Now, the government has repeatedly over the last several years rubbished the CMIE data, but it has been considered fairly reliable. At 23%, it is up from 7.75% to 23%. That jump is shocking post-lockdown. How worried are you about this? Is it likely to come back to 7% when the lockdown opens up?
No, that will take time. It will not happen immediately, because, even by the time the lockdown opens up, there are businesses which are already in trouble. Also, what will happen is that, people who have gone off from cities to their native places really aren't going to come back in a hurry. And then, at some level, the self-isolation is going to continue, and that will hit businesses even more. So obviously, the rate may not continue to be as high as it is currently. but it will not come back to 7-8% also. So.
Okay. And from where you see it right now, what is the danger with unemployment this high?
I mean, the danger is, there are so many dangers. When, if you look at the urban unemployment data, the rate of unemployment has come in at 31%. So, which basically means 1 in 3 people who are looking for a job are not able to find one. And when every third person does not have a job, it obviously means that he's not making any money. And when he's not making any money, obviously he will cut down on consumption dramatically. Also, when this happens, people around him will develop a fear of being unemployed, and that in turn will also lead to a cut down in consumption, and that will impact businesses. Businesses will then fire employees. So it essentially becomes a proper circle wherein consumption gets very badly hit, and that impacts businesses, and that leads them to fire people, and the economy essentially has to bear the cost of it also.
Is that inevitable at this point with the lockdown, or is there anything that can be done in your opinion?
Not really. Inevitable is probably a little. It's how do I put it? It's a slightly hard word to use, but there is not much that can be done even before if before the lockdown ends on April 14th, and if it does, because if you look at the communication that is coming out over the last couple of days, it does. At least I get the feeling that it might get extended. Not at an all India level, but at least in places where COVID-19 has spread at a rapid rate. So,
well, looking also at our finances at this point, you did say, I remember in one of your tweets and one of your articles, that if you haven't already kept aside an emergency fund for a rainy day, this is that rainy day, and it's probably not too late to start now. We look at our portfolios, and there are certain things that are meant to, in our portfolios, function straight. Normally soaring and going up, which is why it's important to have a class that's performing. So what do we do in this environment?
I think this is the wrong question to ask. The question to ask is, what do we do in all environments? And which is why asset allocation is very, very, I may be sounding like a very cliched financial planner here, which I am not. Now, mutual fund / stock portfolio is down 30-40%, then you realize that the return of capital depending on how much you earn and what you're, how much comfortable with. You should have money in fixed deposit. You also need money in a savings bank account. You can withdraw it for a. You should have investments in gold, equity, some real estate. It's very, very boring, and it needs to be followed. That's it. The problem is if you keep chasing investments, that never happens because you don't. Most people, in fact, almost no one has. I can give you a personal example. I have I have felt that the Indian stock markets have been overvalued for almost 2.5 years now. I had no idea that this is what happens. When it comes to the stock market, there are way too many talking heads, who need to constantly keep talking, and this is why a lot of people get lost in that talk basically. And none of these people actually talk about asset allocation. I mean, it's all about how the Sensex has given 17% per year return if you look over a period of 40 years. I mean, the point is, in a period of 40 years, most of us will be dead and gone. So which is why you need asset allocation. So.
Right, and going forward, do you expect that our portfolios are going to come under a further hammering, given what's happening in the world, what's happening with our own markets?
So see, again, it's difficult to answer that question. But what I can tell you about bear markets is they don't come at one go. There is they sort of come and then a little bit of bullishness which comes back and then they come back again. So we are done as yet. I mean, that's as much as I can say. How much of money will be printed and how low interest rates will go, and there are just way too many factors going around. And I mean, what Donald Trump might say tomorrow morning. So anything.
Nobody knows that.
Anything can drive up the market these days, so or pull it down.
Or pull it down. All right, Vivek, thank you so much for talking to me here at Boom Live and always being a source of reliable information. Vivek Kaul, author and senior journalist there, very useful person to follow on Twitter as well. And if you have doubts and clarifications, you can always go to boomlive.com, which is your fact-checking go-to. And thanks for watching. Thank you.
Thanks.